Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Wrap, brought to you by Michigan Medicine Headlines. I'm Dan Ellman with the Department of Communication.
And I'm also Dan Zemke, in fact, Program Manager for Marketing and Communications at Community Health Services of U of M Health. Very long title. Today, we're going to talk about the Adolescent Health Initiative and why its work is so vital in the community.
Now, before we get into that, be sure you get caught up on all the vital episodes of The Wrap you may have missed, including last week's show on Camp Little Victors. You can find the shows on iTunes, Stitcher, or any other podcast hosting platform. You can also find them on the Michigan Medicine YouTube channel and as part of the Headlines Week in Review.
With that, let's bring in Dana Thomas, Director of Adolescent Health Initiative. Dana, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
All right, Dana, we're going to start out with a simple question that I think you know the answer to. What is the Adolescent Health Initiative and how does it fit into Michigan medicine as a whole?
Thank you, Daniel, because I got to remember there are two Dans here. So the Adolescent Health Initiative actually evolved out of the Regional Alliance for Healthy Schools about 12 or 13 years ago. It became an active part of that, and it became so large that they decided it should become its own thing, and that's how Adolescent Health Initiative kind of was birthed. It really emerged because of the need to ensure that we're centering adolescents and their care, right? You have better health outcomes when the people who are seeking the health are involved in their health care. And so what we really do is work with healthcare providers and youth serving providers to help them become more adolescent-centered in their practices. And when you do that, the outcomes for the youth become better. And so we're really looking to transform healthcare by centering youth as a role and function of their own care and helping the adults become better at working with the young people who they're working with.
Dana, why is it so important to center youth?
Oh man, I think it's that question is such an important question, whether it's regarding centering youth or it's centering any group, particularly marginalized groups. And we often don't think of youth as being marginalized, but they often are because a lot of their care and control is really not up to them. Their parents are making decisions. They're going to schools, and the teachers are making decisions. So involving youth in their own care and what they want and what they need, you're going to have better outcomes because they're there, they're present, they know what they need. As an adult, man, and generations and youth change over time. I don't know the new language, for instance, right? We could talk about Skippy-Doo, but we won't talk about
Me
that.
too.
There's a whole set of language and things that are happening with youth that are constantly evolving and changing with every generation, every new group of young people. And so we often as adults are not up to speed on what's going on with youth. So why not listen to them? Understand what's happening and what's important and what's going on in their lives, like we should for any patient. But we really have to be mindful and cognizant of that as we're dealing with youth, because we often think of youth as not having the capacity, the cognitive ability to be able to speak for themselves. And they do. They're completely capable of saying what they want, what they don't want, what they're comfortable with, and what they're not comfortable with. And we should listen to them. And we should also be able to provide spaces for them to feel comfort, right? So if they're entering into a space, shouldn't they see photos that represent them? Shouldn't they have language that they're friendly with and useful for? Shouldn't we ensure that our policies are done in a way that almost create it as mandatory of how people interact with them to ensure that we're centering their voice? Are we including pronouns in our intake forms and using their preferred pronouns? Are we asking what preferred name do people want to use and then using that name throughout? And those are simple things that are applicable for everyone, but especially youth, because they have their own agency. And sometimes I think adults forget that they do. So Adolescent Health Initiative is really designed to work with providers to remind them of all of these things, but it's also quality improvement. How can you increase your practices and by centering youth and having better health outcomes through this process?
Yeah, and I want to go back to one of those points in a minute, but I do have a quick thought that was sparked by what you said, in that if you're creating healthier youth, or youth that are more comfortable going to the doctor and getting the healthcare they need and want, I assume that down the road you're going to have healthier adults, right? Who aren't
Exactly.
scared of going to the doctor or uncomfortable going to the doctor. It's a whole lifeline that you're pretty much giving to somebody. Is that right?
Exactly. It sets it up, right? So if a young person feels comfortable and confident going to the doctor at 16, 15, 14, that behavior then follows them the rest of their life. They're not afraid of going to the doctor. They're not afraid of being ostracized, or in some cases, they may feel like they're being penalized for having to, and it's really coming at it with a non-judgmental perspective. And like, let's be honest, nobody wants to go to the doctor who is going to judge them, or they feel that they're being
Mhm.
judged, but especially youth. And we can set up, if we can work with providers to help them give youth a healthy sense of self within that, the advocacy for youth to empower themselves at early age, starting at 12, 13, 14, it stays with them throughout their life. So we will have healthier adults.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So now going back to one of the things that AHI does, which is working with adults to provide that better care. Can you dive a little bit more into that, and provide a little bit more detail to our listeners about how you actually go about doing that?
Thanks. We have a number of things that we do, or bucket areas that we do in HI. Our big thing that we're known for is the quality improvement models called the Adolescent Champion Model. And that's where we work with a group of providers and really work with them over 18 months to improve their practices in youth engagement. And so when we say we're working with them, we're looking at 12 indicators, but we're looking at everything from the physical location to the practices and policies to um, the behaviors of the practitioners,
Mhm.
right? We're doing training with the practitioners to ensure that they're going to work with the youth in a way that's appropriate. And then also there's things around confidentiality and some legal pieces, right? You know, there are 50 minor consent laws because we have 50 states that are unique. And in this current and political environment, the last few years, those laws are changing. And they're changing pretty rapidly. So that means that we're trying to stay on top of it to make sure that our resources are accurate, because people really want to know, what does these changes mean? Parents want to know. The providers need to know, because they're also, and the youth need to know and understand that. So we're working really hard to make sure that those resources are available. But that also is part of our quality improvement, because we want to make sure the providers know the law so they can also share that information with the parents, share that information with the youth, to make sure everyone has the information they need to be able to get the resources and services that they need. So we have quality improvement initiatives where we work with providers directly to help increase and improve their youth-centered work. They can become certified. So you can become gold, silver, or bronze certified in adolescent-centered care. And we provide that certification. So we're happy to do that with providers who go through that with us. And so that's one bucket of work. Another bucket of work is training and outreach. And we take a lot of the work that we've done and created within the quality improvement model, and we've turned them into mini trainings that people can download and train their own staff on. So we call them Sparks, or timely topics. And these are the latest information or resources that are coming out that affect adolescent, whether it's gender affirming care. And this is really focused on the provider as an audience, whether it's the latest immunization information. We provide that as free resources and training for providers. We also have a conference, an adolescent health conference, and that's a big draw. And we do draw people internationally. This past May, we had the conference and we had someone from Palau who came, which was pretty exciting that they came all the way from the island of Palau to come for our conference. And we are excited to reboot the conference. We're taking a year off and we're going to have the conference in 2026 and it's going to look a little different. We are going to have a youth conference, which we are super excited. So we're going to have youth telling us what's going on. They're doing the research and they're going to be able to present their research. And we're going to have a traditional part of our conference. We're going to also have a virtual component, and then we're going to have a community practice. So we're really excited about the reshaping of our conference that's going to be coming up. We have youth engagement. So we're informing adults, but we would be remiss if we didn't have youth helping us inform adults. So we have a youth advisory council that works with us and they vet literally every product that we put out. It has their eyes on it. They inform us and guide us on this is not what youth are thinking. This is what youth are thinking. They're also helping us develop what topics we are going to explore next. And then they work on their own projects as well that also help inform us. And we also have a professional advisory council that also informs the clinical side of our work. So we want to make sure that we're using best practices. So we have physicians and nurses and social workers who are also helping advise and guide our work. And so those are kind of the three bucket areas that AHI engage in: quality improvement, training and outreach, and then we have youth engagement.
Dana, I was going to ask you what else AHI provides to the community, but I feel like you just hit that hammer on the head like 20 different times. So I want to ask you a different question, actually.
I just want to say one last thing.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah.
What we are doing. And I'm pretty excited about this because I also believe that we focus on providers, we have youth involvement, and then an important group that really has a huge role in adolescent health are the parents and caregivers, right? So we were fortunate. We have a small project with the Washington County Health Department where we're working and engaging in parents, and we're going to be providing some training to parents on the things that are coming up for them. They're struggling engaging with their youth. They're like, what does this mean? And they're asking for help. They're asking for training. And so we have done some focus group with parents. We're taking that feedback and we're creating some modules, and we're going to be doing some training in Washtenaw County. And they also said, because I listened to our constituents, the parents said they wanted to train other parents. So we're going to train a group of parents, and then they're going to train other parents. So it'll be a parent train to train model. And we're pretty excited about that. And that'll be happening in the fall. So we try to listen and hear. And I think by working with parents also, we're helping them to help their young people be able to advocate to increase their own health.
We're not just talking about a local program here. You were talking about 50 states. You were talking about international countries coming over here, coming to the conference. Can you talk about some of the wide-reaching, like some of the other states that you work with? Because like this is not some small program just in Washington County right here. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, it seems like it's like, oh, you're Washtenaw, you're Michigan focused. No, we have worked in 44 states with clinics across 44 states. We're still working on a few states where we haven't worked on, but that's okay. Like currently we're working in the state of Arizona. We have a cohort of sites in Arizona. Georgia, we have two cohorts in Georgia, believe it or not. We have the Atlanta area, and then we have more rural Georgia. And then we have Texas that we're currently working in. So we're kind of like the South and Southwest is really big right now for whatever reason, but we'll take it. And we also are working with, we actually are consulting in Spartanburg, South Carolina. as well. So we have a lot of Southern footprint right now. We'll take it. We love
Yeah,
it.
that's awesome.
It's exciting.
Yeah. All right, so I have two questions to close this out. Number one, when do you sleep? And then number two, if you had to pick just one thing that you're most excited about coming down the line, what would it be?
Wow, that's hard because I think we have so many really exciting things that are about to come out over the next year and a half. But I'm gonna say the conference. The
Yeah.
reboot of the conference is the thing I think I'm most excited about. I believe by highlighting and showcasing youth and the work that they're gonna provide will, um, I don't want to use this term, but I'm gonna use it, will blow your adults' minds, right? It will really highlight the great work and the importance of youth being involved in research and patient-centered care. Um, and I think it really will set the adults up to think about youth engagement differently. I think sometimes adults think, oh, youth are difficult to work with, it's not easy, and so forth. And I think that that's not true. I think youth are people, uh, and people just generally can be difficult, right? But I
Yes.
think it's any more difficult than
Probably adults more than youth. Yes.
I am so difficult, just
but
Yes.
and I
unbelievably.
youth are still curious.
Mm,
They're still curious and they want to be part of. And I think you have that energy and that excitement. And that's I think what I'm super excited about. I'm super excited about um, providing that platform for youth and then for adults to kind of see the full possibility and range that youth can do, and then the conference itself. So I think that would be the thing I think I'm most excited about, particularly the youth element of it.
Now, now, Dana, I got word that you actually have an event coming up this fall.
Yes, yes, we do.
You not gonna tell us about that?
Of course, love to. And I think, and if you didn't hear it before, I just want to be very clear.
Yeah.
I come from public health and community organizing. That's kind of a lot of where my background is, and adolescent work, right? And so for me, it's about listening to our community. And our community was saying, our community of parents, our community of providers, and our community of youth were saying that vaping and marijuana has become a huge issue. And in states like Michigan that have legalized marijuana, it's complicated, right? Because people don't know what happens with it, where they're landing. It's legal. It's not legal for under 18, but it creates a whole level of complication of people are struggling. We're still figuring out the health effects of marijuana. We're understanding more about the health effects of vaping. And so because of that, we thought it was important to focus our fall October 3rd connection session on vaping and marijuana, to provide providers and youth and parents and caregivers better understanding of what vaping and marijuana is for adolescent development, and then also providing skills for providers on how to address it when it shows up in their clinic, how to address substance uses with youth. And so we have it as the morning session will be more informational. We'll talk about the policies of marijuana and its change over time. We'll talk about its impact on adolescent development. Adolescents are still developing, and when you're introducing a substance, what does that mean for their development? And then in the afternoon, it's going to be workshops. So you're getting practical skills that you can take away. So it's going to be October 3rd at Eastern Michigan University, all day. The morning session is also virtual, but the afternoon session is in person only. We hope to see people out for it.
That's so exciting.
It is.
Thank you so much, Dana, for giving us this like inside peek at the Adolescent Health Initiative. And if you want to learn more about the program, go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
All right, it's time for the lightning round when we ask our guests 4 quick fire questions they haven't seen before. So Dana, are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Unfortunately, summer is actually starting to wind down. What has been the highlight of the summertime for you so far, Dana?
Work-wise or personal-wise?
Let's go personal wise. Who cares about work?
Okay, so I'll try and make this really quick. So, everyone who knows me knows that my next career is going to be with the National Park Service. I'm putting that out in the universe, right? So I volunteer with the National Park Service when I can. And so literally just last week, I got back from St. Louis, where I volunteered with the National Archway, which is the Archway to the West in St. Louis, but I did the Trails and Rails program. And with that program, I ride Amtrak 2 hours from St. Louis to Springfield and Springfield back to St. Louis, and I provide historical interpretation.
Wow. Look at you. That is awesome. I one time my wife and I just spent a weekend in Springfield, and that was fascinating. And the
It,
national park that's around Lincoln's home and all like the whole neighborhood is still there from when
yes,
Lincoln lived there. It's
yes.
awesome.
But most importantly, Daniel, did you go to the Dana Thomas house?
I did not. Did you grow up in Springfield?
No, Frank Lloyd Wright's house is named Dana Thomas.
Wow. Look at that.
So
I
everybody
didn't
was
know
like,
that.
is that coincidental? I'm just like, I don't
I don't
know.
know. He knew something.
I
That's
thought you were saying,
awesome.
did we go to your house? I'm like, well, I wasn't
Right.
invited, so
Oh,
yeah, say.
gorgeous house, gorgeous house.
That's awesome. All right. I think you spoiled a future question, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, the next question is, this week was National Relaxation Day. So what do you like to do each day to relax and wind down from work?
So, okay. So I have 2 ways that I like to relax. One is just doing nothing, like sitting in a few minutes of just nothingness. No sound, no music, nothing, just a few minutes to kind of reset and recenter and actually push out any thoughts. And then the other one is I like to binge watch television, of
Of
course.
course. What's your top show?
Oh, right now I'm rewatching Walking Dead
Nice.
because
Wow.
I'm reading the
We're not
graphic
gonna see you for a very long time, Dan.
almost towards the end, but I'm reading the graphic novels, so I'm doing the kind of the comparison between the graphic novel and the television series because I'm a nerd.
Dana, we have a new kinship that I did not know existed, and I am so thankful right now because I own the graphic novels for Walking Dead as well, and I read them too. So we should
Wow, you
Same.
both are
should talk
nerds.
zombies.
Holy cow.
Oh, Dan, if you are not a nerd, I don't know. You got your own nerdiness that you nerd out too.
I do, yes.
So, Dana, actually, you took one of my questions with your dream job. Where you talked working at one of the national parks. So I'm going to serve this one to you. Since you are a nerd, are you more of a Star Wars person or a Star Trek person?
Star Trek.
That was a quick answer. She did not hesitate with that at all.
No hesitation whatsoever. Now, which Star Trek? Several different series in there.
Ooh, there's so many now. I would say the one with Jean-Luc Picard.
Ooh.
But
I
then
like me a Patrick
This
Stewart
is all
as
going
well.
so far over my head. I'm just letting you know that.
I find this so hard to believe that this is going over your head.
Oh, absolutely. Nope. I've never seen Star Wars. I don't know if I've ever watched a Star Trek. Nothing.
what?
I did
Right.
sports. That's what
What?
I do.
Oh, I do
Oh.
not do the sports ball, so
All
sorry.
right. Or I'm like a history nerd. So that's going to get the final question, Dana. If you could go back and meet one person from history, who would it be and why?
That's a tough one for me. So my undergrad is actually in history.
Nice.
Oh.
As it
Um,
should be.
oh, gee, if I could meet one person from history, this may seem random, but it's not based on where I just was. Scott Joplin. I know
Nice.
I was like, what is that? Scott Joplin. So he pretty much invented ragtime.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ragtime is the original American music. So it was really developed in America, and that really is the launching pad for all other genres of American music. So blues, jazz, rock, country. So it's a pretty much kind of a foundational music. And so Scott Joplin, because nothing really, not a lot survived. Of course, his recognition came many years after his death. So I would love to kind of meet him, and he was just like an amazing talent that I'm glad we're able to recognize now. But at the time, he was just a local musician. So Scott Joplin.
So thank you so much, Dana, for joining us and playing along in the lightning round. If you want to learn more about the Adolescent Health Initiative, go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
And while you're there, you can check out other featured stories from this week, including a look at all the discounts and perks you can get at area businesses simply by using your M card. Check that out and much, much more at mmheadlines.org.
Okay, Dan, we asked Dana what the highlight of her summer has been so far. Let's turn the tables on you, sir. What would you say the highlight of your summer has been?
Boy, I was not expecting that question.
I know,
But
right?
yeah, no, I will say, so a couple things. So my wife and I love taking road trips, and we've taken two this year. One was down to Hilton Head, South Carolina. And then the second one was much shorter, but we enjoyed it more. We went to Cincinnati, and we really just spent the weekend, the 4th of July weekend down in Cincinnati. We stopped on the way down there at the Neil Armstrong Museum, Space Museum, which was fascinating. And then the zoo and gardens down in Cincinnati is great. And then we went to the Tigers at Reds baseball game, and it's a beautiful ballpark right on the riverfront. It was really gorgeous. And we stayed in Northern Kentucky, which was really nice. We really liked it. We're like, when are we coming back to Cincinnati? I did not expect that when we booked a few nights in Cincinnati, but we loved it. So I would say that's been the highlight. How about you?
First of all, I'm jealous of all the travel that you get to do because I have mostly been local for my summer. But I did go to Kalamazoo and this may shock you, and especially with our earlier conversation with Dana, but I am big into Dungeons and Dragons, and my dungeon master got married, and our group, which primarily plays online, got to meet for the first time in person at his wedding. And we played some board games that night. So it was pretty dope. And I would say that was definitely one of the best parts of my summer so far.
That's cool. I mean, your nerdiness keeps going up and up, like the more we talk, but hey, that's awesome. And it's actually really cool you all got together for the first time. I think that's pretty awesome.
It was so cool.
Nice, nice. All right, it's time for the weekly trivia contest. This week's question is, name one of the 5 agencies that will benefit from this year's school supply and basic needs drive. Once again, name one of the 5 agencies that will benefit from this year's school supply and basic needs drive. You can find those names in last week's headline story, and once you know it, send it to headlines@med.umich.edu for the chance to win a prize. That's all we have for this week. Thank you so much, Dana, for joining us, and thanks, as always, to our listeners and viewers for everything you do for patients, families, and each other. We'll see you next time.